I've taken for granted for so long. All the signs, I've been shown the signs, the signals have been there. And I've chosen to ignore them because there was fear. I was afraid. I was afraid of the power of it. But the fact of the matter is, I've always had a presence of security, a sense of safety, and it seemed to follow me. But for the times when this, perhaps an illusion, it was shattered by man unkind, the men who came into my life with nefarious intent to do bad things to me, starting from when I was a baby and throughout the childhood, little girl. Men always trying to be inappropriate, and in many cases they were inappropriate towards me, right? I got a sense of the world very early on that it was not a safe place, especially not for children, and certainly not for me. However, from perhaps, of course, the idea of a God I took from the Catholic Church where I was baptized, but I switched it. I didn't accept the God they gave to me in the Catholic Church, but I accepted a God of my own making. I said this God represents to me mother and father. My God is of both genders, and also it's more than what the church said it was, and it's not what the church said it was, but it's in me, in my heart. There is God, and it's a feeling, but more than a feeling, it's an energy, a sensation, a presence. So I recall many times in the past, many years past, when I was in despair, when I was alone and sad. You see, I'm alone now and I'm not sad. There were times when I had partners. I had girlfriend, I had boyfriend, and still I was sad. I was unhappy. There was a deep well of sadness within me because of the experiences I'd had that were traumatic. Trauma. I had PTSD, and there were several incidents that caused me to have this as a result of my encounter. One of the ways I dealt with it, because I certainly, therapy was not for me. First of all, it was cost prohibitive. It was to apparently the good therapists cost a lot of money, and I didn't have that in my budget, right? The therapist I could afford was a $40, $65 sliding scale, okay? And that was inadequate. And after a while, I got tired of it. I got tired of going to therapy and talking to someone who was just sitting and listening, and that's it. I could do that with two and by myself. And that's what I started to do. I stopped going to therapy and I started to write. So what I would have been saying to a therapist, I was saying it on my pages. I was writing for many years. It was therapeutic. I found it to be very therapeutic compared to going to an actual therapist that I didn't really find. At first it was nice to kind of unload this stuff. I had so much, and I was unloading, and this poor person I was unloading to, right? What can they do, right? But at the time, I don't know, I had expectations. the writing, journaling, writing poetry, poems, and songs, and essays, articles. It was good. A lot of social commentary, and I enjoyed that. So I lived a life of much leisure, doing much writing and creating and recording and singing, playing with my garage band in my little. Someone gifted me a Mac computer. Like the things I receive gifts. I don't really buy things. Most everything I have has been gifted to me, and I often re-gift the gifts I receive if I feel someone else may make better use of it, perhaps a student in Africa. But we're going to talk about my presence now. During the times when I wrote, which was usually more often than not in the winter, so when I'm not really keen on going outside, I'm not into the cold, so I like to be cocooned indoors in the winter, in front of the fire or just by the heat, wherever it's warm, and I am writing, especially in the middle of the night. I enjoyed that, and I lived this way for many years in a part of, well, around the Greater Toronto area, but mostly Parkdale and East York, by the beach, or in Indiatown. Actually lived right in Indiatown East, and then I lived all around Parkdale. It was quite an experience coming from my sheltered background and going into that fire of an inner city. So they call it urban dwelling, urban living. But urban living in Toronto is posh in comparison to urban living in the US. So I would spend, I had friends come over, but even, then my friends leave and I'm alone, and I love their company, but because how I would do it is my friends would be over and they were also artists, so they were doing their thing, I'm doing my thing, so usually in the same room, usually on the same bed, we're just doing our thing. That was nice. That's what I loved about it, the exchange and the companionship. And sometimes, they go into the next room. There were other rooms in the house they could occupy, but usually they like to hang around where I was, which meant that I didn't realize at the time they were draining my energy, and when they were finally gone, I was so happy in solitude again, to be alone. It was because I always had a roommate or housemate, so the person and my housemate or my roommate would stay in their room, I would stay in my room and come out when I wanted to maybe use the kitchen or the bathroom, and I like to also have my own bathroom. I insisted on that. So I like to live like this. I like to have someone nearby, but not necessarily like in my face all the time. But my roommate kept on being in my face all the time. He just, as soon as he heard me, boom, he was there talking. But anyway, I'm going to back to the presence. So in my space, so let's say I've dismissed the roommate or the housemate, and I'm back into my room doing my thing. There would be a presence, because I'd be writing, and there were words that I would use that I know I had read voraciously as a child, and that I had quite a vocabulary, but as I got older, I was losing the vocabulary because I was not using it, right? But some words, I suppose, they stayed with me in my mind. And those were words, they were just there, but I had never used them. I never used them in speech or in writing. And there I was writing, and the words would just pop up. And I would be baffled. I'd be like, whoa, I'm so impressed. And I would say, thank you, Daddy. Thanks so much. Because I was convinced that because there was always a presence. I was always aware of a presence. And it was malevolence. I'm sorry. It was benevolence. Oi. This is the English language. It's a tricky thing. It trips me up all the time. So often I will misuse a word, but it's as though like I know the correct word, but somehow I feel tricked and I will say the wrong one, but I speak so fast. It comes out. And then it's already been said and I don't want to interrupt my flow. So I just continue and I'm like, well, if they have any sense, they can make sense of what I just said and would understand that I misused the word, but they would also know what word it was I had intended to use. Because it's not that I don't know what I'm saying. I am supposedly, allegedly, on the autism scale. They say Asperger's. Is it a syndrome? Asperger's. I said that explains so much. But anyway, this happens so often. It happens so much. And every time it happened, I would give thanks. And I would smile. And I always, I felt like a child. I felt like a little girl. And this is important. I believe that's why so many people out there cannot accept the idea of God or a God. And they will even say such things as, they are the gods and they're gods. And I'll say, yeah, there are many gods, but to me there's only one God. And that means that's my source. And I'm of and from that source. And I'm satisfied with that, you know. I can be more, I suppose. It would be great, wouldn't it? Why not, right? But I like to have the grace of God. And I'm okay to be granted this. And I am granted all the time. You know. I am shown ways. There are means. And I have been given these visions. I felt privileged because other people were not receiving the same vision. And then I levitated. I was in awe. I was actually shocked and freaked out, scared. And I didn't want to tell anyone because I was afraid. I didn't understand why it happened or what had happened. All I know is I was sitting in my bed and the next thing I know, I'm cross-legged as I had been but I'm up close to the ceiling, looking down on, it was the weirdest thing. So strange happenings. And I'm freaked out. So all these years gone past and I avoid and ignore and pretend that it's not happening. I even said to one time I said to a cousin when I said something and it was true. But I didn't want to say, I wanted to take it back because it was like, oh my God, how she would think I'm a freak. How the hell did I know that? But she knew. And how did I know? Well, I knew. And it's like she kind of figured that I have these powers. That I was only now then realizing, oh. So what I've been doing is trying to pretend or avoid or not acknowledge or not admit. But the truth is the truth. It is what it is. I can do these things. I can see these things. My intuition is sharp, keen. Yes. And it's time that I accepted it. This gift, it's a gift. I have the gift of sight and foresight. And it's time for me to use this might. Use my might. The sight, they say, the third eye. And it's connected to my heart. Going to my stomach. And they say the chakras. I'm not going to use this language because I'm not a fake, phony person. But I'm aware of these words. But I don't use them. Anyway, I wanted to mention throughout my life how I've been in situations where I was delivered. I was protected. You know, two guys were driving on my street one day and they abruptly stopped. Well, they said something to me and I ignored them, and then they drove away and I was relieved, and then they did a sharp U-turn, came back, stopped abruptly where I was. As I was walking, the guy jumped through the window. He didn't even open the door. He took 2 steps, and the third step was right in my face. And he says, "Where you going?" Well, he didn't say it like Guyanese. He said it like Jamaican, but I can't speak like that. So he did it in a Jamaican accent. where you going? He said, where you going? Whatever. And out of my mouth swiftly came the words, I'm off to do the Lord's work. I'm off to do the Lord's work, is what I said to this would-be thug, ruffian, gangster, menacing, on the street, coming after me. There was no one else on the street. It was quiet, it was sunny, bright. I had come from the library. I was carrying the books. I have the glasses on, looking so bookish, so nerdy, because I am that hot chick that happens to read books and love them. And I've always read them. And the library was my place. And when I said to that guy who was acting like a thug, up to no damn good, bothering me in the street, scaring the hell out of me, harassing me, and stepping to me, where you going, he said, right in my face. He could have licked me. He was so close. I said, I'm off to do the Lord's work. And he backed away immediately. And he said, go on. Go on then. Go off and do the Lord's work. Hello? Okay. My brother is here. My mom just called me. Yes, I'm coming. They're calling me for my supper. My brother's brought some roti. Thank you for listening. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, or not. It's all good. I am doing the Lord's work. I am with the Lord. There is to me the Most High, the one and only.